This will be SSRF versus business critical applications with Alexander, who's the CTO of ERP Scan, and Dmitry, the principal researcher at ERP Scan. Thank you.
Hi. So, hello everybody. I don't expect. So, the last day and the last talk, and I want to give some information about the type of attacks which called Server Side Request Forgery, and also about the business critical applications and how we attack the SAP systems using the XXE Tunneling. So, a couple of words about me. I'm working in a ERP Scan company, focused on developing an ERP Scan security scanner for the SAP, and I love hacking business applications, especially because they have a lot of neat stuff to hack. So it usually can find many interesting vulnerabilities in these products because they are very complex. And also co-organizing the security event, which calls Zero Nights. It's a security conference in Russia. It's a deep technical conference. So, and it's my friend and my colleague, Dmitry Chastuhin. He's a pretty cool guy, and he do a lot of Web 2.0 security stuff and have acknowledgements from the Yandex and Google and other companies. So its agenda, you can read it, but while you read it, I'll tell you the small story and how this talk was started. So how I started to think about giving this presentation. So it was a story about in one of our clients. So we do a security assessment of the SAP platform, and we send the report. And after the week, the CISO of this company called me and said, so I was talking with the guys who implement the SAP in our company, and they say that it's a lot of vulnerabilities you found in SAP. It's very hard to patch them, and so maybe it's better to install the firewall. And he said, Alex, what do you think about it? And I say, well, it's probably not a good decision. And he said, Alex, just tell me the truth, if they are trying to deceive me or not. And I say, yeah. So probably the use of the firewall is not the best option to secure your system, and I'll show you why. And we'll start from the starting point. We start from the business definition of the business application. So basically, all the systems which helps you to increase the efficiency of your company is a business application. And they can be small and they can be large, so we will focus on the large ones like ERP systems. And I think you all know that the ERP systems are very critical because they store a lot of business critical data like HR data and financial data and etc. So if anybody will try to hack your system, probably the most good point to attack your system is attack the ERP, because all information is stored in ERP, and you don't need to hack the domain controller and etc. And as for the business critical systems, so we think that they must be located in secure network, yes, and of course they must be secured by firewalls and monitored by IDS systems. But in reality, it's not, because we saw a lot of systems. A lot of ERP systems and even SCADA systems in a flat network. So, and they don't patch and etc. Oh, it's funny. Goodbye, Jeremy. So, but let's assume that those systems are secured, because it will be much interesting to attack them. So, it's a typical example of the corporate system. So you have some kind of corporate portal. You have a corporate network, then you have a secured ERP network or other business application, and you have a firewall, and you have industrial network. So it looks pretty good and looks pretty secured, but the problem is there must be some links between these systems, because the data must be somehow transferred to from one system to another system. Because if you don't have the links, there is no need to have those systems. So probably the system looks like that. And so we have connections from the portal to the ERP and from the ERP to industrial network. So they must be somehow connected. And it means that if there is some connections, that attacker can use them. And so possible way to attack some kind of critical system is firstly to attack the portal, escalate the privileges, get the shell, then attack other system and other system. It is possible, but it's very hard and etc. So I was thinking about another way to do this much easier. So, and the answer is the server side request forgery. And how many of you know what is the server side request forgery or heard something about this? Okay, great. So it was was presented first in ShmooCon in 2008. So, and it's not like a new type of vulnerability. It's like a type of attack which is using the vulnerabilities. So the basics of the server-side request forgery, it's the main basics you should understand. And we have a packet called A, and we have a service, some kind of service called service A. And we send the packet from to server A, and it somehow do something with this packet and send packet B to server B. So it's like packet in packet, and the question is how many fields of packet B we can control in packet A. So it's better to later show you more detail. So the history was like the first talk was by they are held in ShmooCon. So idea was that there was a web portal, and it was connected by the portlet. It was connected to the internal applications. So it's like it's like iframe, but for the internal applications. So it was possible to scan internal network using the parameters in the URL of the portal. And later on, some other guys presented the possibility to make a server-side request forgery using the XXE vulnerability. So what about my research? I was thinking about some kind of attack like that when I was researching the Oracle database security. And the idea was, if you have a minimum rights on the system, send something to other system which will make the maximum impact. Example was like there was a pretty old vulnerability in Oracle listener. It's like when you use the option set log file, you can rewrite the configuration log file with any kind of data. And later it was secured by optional like localhost authentication. And my idea was to, if you have some kind of user with little privileges, which can do only the util TCP connection, use util TCP function, it is possible to construct the TCP packet, which will, by using the util TCP, which will call the listener and make the attack. So even if this attack is impossible from the outside, it is possible to do this from the application. It was my first idea of something like server-side request forgery. And we also do a lot of research in SMB relay vulnerability. So what I am thinking is SMB relay is also some kind of example of server-side request forgery, because, for example, we have an SAP NetWeaver application. There are some functions when you send the packet with read some kind of file, and after that the application sent this request to another system. So it's like a server-side request forgery also. So to exploit server-side request forgery, you need either vulnerability in the system or account in the system. So we can use some kind of XML external entity or SQL injection, or you need to have an account in the system which allow you to call some HTTP scheme and etc. So the idea of this talk is to collect information about the SSRF examples and show the new attacks. So basically, again, we have some kind of server, and we have firewall. We have another server in the secure network. And let's assume that packets from this server are allowed to this server, but packets from attacker are not allowed to this server. What attacker do is send in the packet to the service, and somehow this service manipulate with this packet and send another packet to secure network. So the idea was to control the packet B, to maximally control the packet B. And in ideal server-side request forgery, it means that you can control full packet B, and you can send packet A to the system without any authentication. And I will show you that this is possible. So when I was researching the different types of server-side request forgery, I found that there are two types of server-side request forgery, like trusted and remote. And there are three types of remote. So the trusted server-side request forgery is like when you have when the system A have some kind of links or connections with the system B. And some applications like Oracle database or MySQL database or SAP NetWeaver have these connections, have this possibility to use the trusted links. So, for example, if we have two SQL servers connected with each other using the links, by having access to one of them, you can make the select queries from the another servers. And the same example for the Oracle database and also for SAP NetWeaver is more interesting. So it's pretty very known problem, and we do a lot of penetration testing, and we see a lot of examples of this problem. So it's like when you have a test SAP system and a production SAP system, and usually test systems are not so secured, so it's easy to get access to them. And what you can do is you can run transaction SM59, and if the systems are connected, and they're usually connected with the links, so using the RFC links, you can call commands from the connected system. Okay, so trusted server-side request forgery is interesting, but not so dangerous. And disadvantages like you need to have a username and password to get access to the system A, and you need to have a link. So let's talk more about the remote server-side forgery. It's like when you can send any request to any system. And there are three types of server-side request forgery. It's like simple one, when you have we send a packet, and you can't control the packet B, so you can't control only the destination and the IP and destination port, but you can't control application level. Another one, partial, is very popular nowadays when you can control some fields, like do HTTP requests and other type of requests. And full, which was not known before this talk, is when you can control all the application level packets. So examples of the simple server-side request forgery. I have examples from the SAP system, because we do a lot of research in SAP system. So some other systems are also have some kind of vulnerabilities. So it's like there is an GSP page with two parameters, with more than 5 parameters, but we're interested in only 2 of them. So this service is accessed without any authentication, and you can send the IP address and the port request. So depending on these parameters, you can get different responses. So that's how you can scan the internal network from internet. But you only can find information if the port is open or not. So it's just a simple, when you can't control anything. So next is a partial remote SRF. It's very popular because there are many possibilities for attacker, like remote brute forcing, like SMB relay, XML external entity. So when you can control some kind of fields in the packet B, example like we found a vulnerability in SAP, but unfortunately we cannot disclose it now. But the idea is similar to this packet, but you also can brute force the username and the password of the application remotely. Also interesting. And again, Server Side Request Forgery. Also, a couple of examples from the SAP. You can look at them in the internet. It's not so interesting, nothing new. So more interesting is XML entities. So you can do any kind of HTTP request. And we successfully, when we do one of penetration testing to one of the banking system, we successfully do this HTTP server-side request forgery attack. So it's like you if you try to send this request directly, it will not work. But if you integrate this GET request into SSRF packet, it will go and it will go to the system. You can do this using the XXE vulnerability. Do you know what's XXE? Okay, so it's like if you have an XML interface, and when you send the XML packet like this, and this is the entity, so it's like your XML parser should connect to this URL and store this data in this variable. So using this type of request, you can send any kind of HTTP request to any internal system. It also is a very known issue, and what we do next is we found a lot of XML interfaces in SAP applications, and most of them are vulnerable to the XXE. But what we wanted to find is XXE interface which can be accessed without any authentication, because it's much better. So, what do you think? Can somebody guess why I put this screenshot, this paper? No? Okay, so it's a Dilbert, and this web service in SAP calls Dilbert Message Server. It was epic. So yeah, I'm not kidding. It's a real web service which is called Dilbert Message, and it is created for the testing purpose. And it's like when you send some kind of request to Dilbert Message, he answering you. This is a lot of funny Dilbert jokes. So it's a test service, but it can be accessed without any authentication in SAP system. So we can do requests to an internal system. We can do HTTP requests. What we can do next? So you probably know that if you have an XXE vulnerability, you can do not only the HTTP requests, but also different kinds of FTP and LDAP and etc. But all of them are like allow you to connect to special services and send special commands. So, for example, you can use the LDAP, but but the system should have a LDAP service, and you should have a username and a password. And they are not universal, but what we wanted to do is to send any kind of packet to any system. And so here comes the full server-side request forgery. So from this part, this talk will be much interesting. Okay. So again, we sending the packet, And in this packet, we have another packet, which is in the XML packet. And this service, it can be an SAP XI of the portal system, which can be accessed from the internet. And it sends the packet B to some kind of internal server. And this packet B contains some kind of exploit. And do you know how it's possible to do this? Okay, so any guesses what will happen if we send this kind of request? Okay, it will send if we send this kind of request, this service will send the request to port 3300 and this IP address with this string. So so you can construct any kind of application level packet using the Gopher service. And what I will show you is how it can be used for attacking the business critical applications, and in an example of SAP. And why SAP? Because we spend a lot of time in SAP research, and it's very popular business application, and because it could just run SAP, but I don't know why, but anyway. So, I mean, I don't know for what purpose they use SAP. Okay, so what we can do using the XXE tunneling by Gopher, we can exploit all operation system vulnerabilities, like any kind of buffer overflow in the Windows services and etc. So it's not very interesting. We can exploit all SAP vulnerabilities. We can bypass SAP security restrictions, and we can exploit vulnerabilities in local services. So now it's also possible to exploit vulnerabilities in local services. So one example of how we can exploit the old vulnerabilities is like the Verb tampering vulnerability was presented by me in the previous Black Hat. And it's like when you send the head request to one of the services, one of the SAP services, which allows you to create a new user in the system and etc. So many companies don't patch this, and they use, instead of patching, they use some web dispatcher. It's like a proxy. So they disable the direct request to this vulnerability, but vulnerability still exists, and we can exploit it using the XXE. It's very complex stuff, but you know, in the Gopher, we put the head request, and we send to this service. This service generates the head request and send to the SAP portal, and we can do anything like creating new users and etc. And it was an easy example, and another one example is more complex, so get ready for some type of hardcore. And so there was a vulnerability, the buffer overflow vulnerability, which was found by a bruteforce company in the ABAP kernel. And it is very hard to exploit this vulnerability because it is in the SAP kernel. And to call the SAP kernel, to send something to the SAP kernel, you need to have a RFC function, which is calling the SAP kernel. So you need to pass the string through the RFC request, and then it will go to the kernel. But I will show you that even such a complex attack can be possible. But we have some problems. The first problem is it's maybe not possible to use it to exploit it by RFC calls, because using the Gopher we can only send one packet. We cannot do the kind of session, but probably it's possible. We have some kind of ideas how to do this, but by now it's not possible. So we decided to send the RFC requests using the Web RFC service. So, and the Web RFC service, we do some kind of research of, it's called SAP security by the figures, and we do a lot of scanning of the external SAP systems, and we found that in 40% of the systems, the Web RFC service is installed. So it's possible to attack the system using Web RFC. But here comes another problem. And the shellcode, in this buffer overflow, in the name parameter, the shellcode is limited to 255 bytes. And the problem is, what we wanted to do is not the binned connection, because if we attack the secured system, if the system is secured by firewall, if we bin the port, we don't have a chance to connect to this port. So we need to have some kind of DNS connect back shellcode or something like that. So our colleague is create the DNS shellcode. It was presented in one of the conferences. So we use this DNS tunneling shellcode, but the problem was this shellcode is big and we need somehow to put it on the 225 bytes. And we found a very strange behavior in the XML parser, that the idea is if you, the XML parameters are stored in the RVX memory. So if you send the XML request with some kind of parameters, the parameters are stored in RVX memory. So the only thing you need to do is to use this some kind of egg hunter to find this data in the stack and to execute it. So it means that any kind of shellcode will be executed. So you send for example, one packet with a shellcode and another packet with the egg hunter. So the packet that's whole attack with it's not whole, it's the first part of the attack would look like this. So it's an XML packet, and which is executing the RFC function, and this RFC function executing the kernel call, and in the kernel call there is the buffer overflow vulnerability. So here's an exploit, and in the name parameter, here's the shellcode, and here's the egg hunter, which is trying to find the shellcode. So the next step, we need to pack this packet in a buffer. So another problem was that we need to use non-printable symbols, but buffer supports the URL encode. So it's possible to insert the packet B into the buffer. So the final packet will look like this. It's pretty scary, and I don't think there's any kind of IDS system or something like that can figure out what the hell is going on here. So, and the whole attack will look like this. So it's like you send in the post request with buffer with the packet B, and this system will send the packet B to the SAP web service. Then the shellcode will be executed and the data will be transferred to attacker. So it's like a full control on the ERP system. Thanks, and just show a demo. Yep. Can you just repeat? No. No, but it's in the XML parser. There are some. It supports some kind of schemes like HTTP, LDAP, and buffer. So in XML parser, you have a buffer client. You don't need to have a buffer server. Just any buffer client is so funny it can be used to send any kind of packet. It's not the end of presentation. I'll show a little bit more interesting things. So here we have a scan of the system. We see that the two scans. The first scan we see that's pause. So in the first scan we see that the port is open, and in another scan from other source IP address we see that the port is closed. So what we wanted to do is to attack this system. Okay, so we're trying to make a netcat directly to this port, and we cannot connect because it's closed by the firewall. So what we do next is, we're trying to do the netcat from another server, server A, and we see that this port is open. Okay. So we get some kind of message. Yeah. So then we're sending to this server, a request to this server. And this server, in the Gopher, you can see other IP address. So we can send a request to this service, but we can send directly to this service. And actually, okay, it's just a full packet. It's pretty big. You see the list of the processes in this server, so we are waiting for the calculator. And we see that we executed the calc.z. Okay. So, in the agenda, I was saying like it's probably possible to do also to obtain the shell access using the XXE. And one of the possible ways to do this is, you know, the air login service is pretty old, but it's used in many Unix systems, in old Unix systems, and SAP based in sometimes in old Unix systems. So it means that probably if you have a Gopher service, it is also possible to send the Gopher. If you have a air login service, it's possible to send some kind of remote commands. So it's also possible to exploit the RSH. But what we do next is we wanted to try to bypass SAP security restrictions using this kind of attack. There are some kind of security restrictions like in SAP Gateway, SAP Message Server, and other services. So the first is SAP Gateway. It's like a remote management for the SAP. It was found many kind of vulnerabilities in the Gateway, but they are old, and now they are secured by the option, which Gateway Monitor option. It means that the only requests from the local service are allowed. So, but now when we have the XXE tunneling, we can send the requests and they will be from the local host. It means that we can bypass the security restriction. But here comes some other problems. Here, the first we need to encode the characters use URL encode. It's not hard. The second was a very bad problem because the Gopher, if you send some chart data, you can send any packet. But if you send some kind of binary data, the Gopher application changing some symbols in the packet. But we found a way to bypass this. You only need to enter some kind of character before the packet, and the Gopher will not just somehow will delete this character and send other part of request without modification. And another problem was found that the Gopher is very old protocol and it not support these symbols. So the problem is if you have some kind of exploit which need to use these symbols, you either cannot exploit the vulnerability, or you must be a lucky boy and you need to change these symbols to other symbols, and possibly it will work. So this lucky boy found a way to bypass it, because in the gateway protocol there was a symbol 88, and I was thinking like, oh my god, it's probably impossible to bypass SAP restrictions, but we need to do this. And she said, what if just change 88 to 77 and hoops, it works. Okay. So the whole packet would look like this. And I was talking before, you need to put some kind of character before the entire request. And the Gopher will not change some kind of symbols. And you see 77 instead of 88. So by sending this kind of request, we can change any SAP Gateway parameters. Okay, so next is the SAP Message Server, and we try to bypass this security also, and there are also two parameters. Disable the request from the disable external request, or only the internal request can be done, but the problem is here. So message server is acting like so you need to have some kind of session. You need to connect and then send the packet. But unfortunately, we cannot do the session using the Gopher right now. So it seems that it's not impossible to bypass the message server, but we need some kind of time to more investigation. It's probably possible, but. And another one, I think it's Oracle database security bypass. So there is a pretty known attack on the SAP system, because when SAP system used with the Oracle database, and it is vulnerable to unauthorized access using the remote authentication option. So it's possible to connect by knowing only the seed of the SAP system. It is possible to connect to the Oracle server without any password. But there is a option like TCP wallet not checking, so you disable the request from the external, but also it's possible to send a request from the local host. But still, there is you need to have some kind of session, and probably it's not possible. And another interesting area, there are many different services in the SAP default installation, and what we found one service which can be exploited without any authentication. So even if it's secured and it's secured by ACL, you also can exploit it, but unfortunately cannot disclose this by now. And what else is still probably one of the last things is vulnerabilities in the local. So if you find some kind of service which open only to the local host, it was not interesting to exploit it. But now, if we have some kind of XXE vulnerability or XML interfaces, it's also possible to make attacks to the local services as well. So probably vulnerabilities in local services can be more interesting to research now. And so the idea is to put it under the firewall and don't do anything. It's not working anymore. And it was only one example of Server Side Request Forgery. And I suppose that this example of the Gopher, it's not the only one. It's probably is a area which is needed to have a lot of more research. What we have also do is we made an XXEScanner. So it's like my friend will show you what is this. So it's like when you have a XXE vulnerability, you need to have an easy way to do some kind of internal scanning.
Okay.
Okay.
It's my little talk about our utility, XXEScanner. Okay. Once upon a time, we think, why don't we try to use the process of searching and exploiting XXE type vulnerability and try to aggregate various attacks to XML interface in one small smart utility. And this is how the first version of our XXEScanner appeared. And how can our utility be of use? Let's imagine that you found some XML interface during a pen test, and you want to check if it's vulnerability to XXE. Or you already know there is an XXE vulnerability in XML interface, but you want to know which attack you can execute with it. Or you already know there is an XXE vulnerability in XML interface, and you know where vulnerability service is located in local network, or you maybe know about vulnerable operating system inside a local network, and you want to exploit it. We try to make utility which can help you. On this stage of development, we only have utility without pretty GUI, and which can only execute a range of attacks, but these flaws are to be corrected very soon, I promise. Okay, to start with your successful work with our XXEScan, you need but a few things. First of all, you can point a patch to a potential vulnerability XML interface. Second, you can, you must point XML data itself. You can create your XML, or you can use our predefined XML data, which can be sent to interface XML. And finally, you must create a few rules for parsing a response from XML interface. The creation of parser rules is the hardest stage of operation with our scanner, but it's not so hard. Actually, yeah, it's not so hard. You only have to specify which part of response need to be displayed, which conclusion to make out of one or other string in the response body, and which conclusion to make of response time. An attack on XML interface can be divided into 3 steps: test, scan, and attack. Testing, in this step, we confirm that service is vulnerable to XXE and configure parser with rules. Scanning, we use the chosen protocol scheme to get maximum information about attack object. And finally, attack itself is execute a chosen target using the data we have received from previous steps. And let's review the most important step of testing and configuration. The process of finding get. On this slide, you can see example of parser rules. These rules this rule says to grab data from response which we can get of XML interface. And after, when you create the rules, you can make some attacks. You can try to read files from local file, from shard. You can try use some scheme and perform different. Forget. To define a parser rules, three condition types we work out: T, C, and G. T to make a decision based on response time, C to make decision based on response content, and G to define displayed part of the packet. After that, you may on this stage scan. On this stage, you already understand which scheme and protocol support in XML interface, and we get the maximum possible information about the attack object. You can brute force and alone file it, make some directory listing, for scanning, etc. All this stuff are predefined in dictionary. Oops. Sorry. Yeah. All this stuff predefined in our files in dictionary, and you can create your dictionary with your sport, with your dictionary, which you can try to listing, and etc. And final stage is attack. In this stage, we're having all information about network infrastructure, and you have to execute the attack itself on the chosen resource, like sending a custom SSRF HTTP packet, send TCP packet to Goofer, or you can exploit Windows or Vaga PLC. Blah blah blah. Demo. Not so fast. Okay, our scanner write on Python. We call it red. Why? I don't know. And this little help. Let's try to grab some files from operating system. First of all, we confirm vulnerability, XXE vulnerability in testing in XML interface. For that, we point XML file which can be sent to interface. Point external entity and say try to read bootini. And waiting to response. As you can see, we successfully read bootini, and in response, this file located behind two borders data and angle bracket. And now we can make a first rules which can grab our data from this file from response. now we can get an error, which means if we need an error, which means if file doesn't exist on server. We point a random file and get error, get exception, and create for parser rule 2. And finally, we can test it. Yes. And let's try to get list of file. Okay, a successful download 2 files, Butini and Win. Okay, and little demo, port scanning. Same steps. We must create parser rules. Try to send packet on open port and watch on reply time. After that, send packet on closed port. It's open port, reply time. Send packet in closed port and look on reply time. And now we can create rules, which mean if reply time above 1 and 1.6, that means port is closed. Test it and final scan. Try to scan all SAP ports on server. We found one open port. Go.
Yeah, well, so soon we will create some new modifications, like kind of new GUI and other stuff like document type definition generator and then other XML schemes and etc. And big thanks to our researcher Alex Turin who do this kind of stuff. So as for the conclusion, you can see that Server Side Request Forgery attacks can be very dangerous, and they are still poorly covered because I suppose there are many other types of examples of Server Side Request Forgery, and we just look at the SAP implementation and only for the Java engine. So probably the other systems can be also vulnerable, and we work closely with the SAP to patch these issues. So now it's fixed, and the problem is that Oracle. The problem is in the Java virtual machine, which is supporting the Gopher. So the SAP successfully patched this, and Oracle JVM is still vulnerable, and Oracle JVM is also supporting the Gopher Select. So that's all, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
If I were to put this, the web server you're attacking to service A, that you're attacking from behind a WAF, and was blocking, say, XML requests with the word gopher : / in it for all post requests, would that basically stop all your XXE attacks?
So can you repeat just what is the question? What's your question about?
Well, if I'm running a WAF in front of the service you're running your attack through, right?
Yeah.
and I've got a WAF rule that looks at post requests and stops XML with the word gopher : / in it, wouldn't that stop all the XXE attacks that you've detailed?
Probably, yeah. Yeah, but maybe, probably, yeah, but you know that SSRF is telling us that sometimes restrictions that you're using can be bypassed. So what he is talking about now, it's some kind of another restrictions to prevent this attack. So maybe another guy the next year will come back in this and say, so let's say send not post request and request blah blah blah, and it will work. Okay. So anyway, thanks for the question. Yeah. Okay.